Good morning. Welcome back to yet another section of Signatures Expressing the Self. We are continuing the first chapter, Art, Truth, Politics, in second module. Art, Truth and Politics is the Nobel lecture delivered by Harold Pinter. Harold Pinter started the speech by distinguishing between real and unreal, true and false in the realm of art. He also spoke about political theatre, invention of Iraq, reasons behind the invention. Then he also spoke about the US government's low intensity method. Then he gave clear idea about Nicaraguans. Through Nicaraguans, we have got the clear picture of Somoza dictatorship in Nicaragua. We also understood the details of Sandinistas. Pinter cites several examples like Nicaraguans in Central South America and countries like Indonesia. After that, he spoke about Guantanamo Bay concentration camp, then Geneva Convention. Then he also speaks about the brutality of US government. So through this speech, Pinter speaks about the atrocities done by the US government. So all of you please take the page number 58, last paragraph. I hope you are ready with the page number 58. Death is in this context is irrelevant. Both Bush and Blair placed death well way on the back burner. At least 1 lakh Iraqis were killed by American bombs and missiles before the Iraq insurgency began. These people are of no moment. Their deaths don't exist. They are blank. They are not even recorded as being dead. We don't do body counts, said the American General Tommy Franks. So we can see that through these lines, Pinter criticizes British Prime Minister Tony Blair and his association with US President George Bush in the Iraq invasion. We already understood the innocent people, they were died. Actually more than lakh. Then their deaths weren't recorded, and even they have their own versions relating that. They revealed American General Tommy Franks say they don't do body counts. That means they don't give any importance to the death of those innocent people. They are not at all ready to count at least the number of the victims. Early in the invasion, there was a photograph published on the front page of British newspapers of Tony Blair kissing the cheek of a little Iraqi boy. A grateful child, said the caption. A few days later, there was a story and photograph on an inside page of another 4-year-old boy with no arms. His family had been blown up by a missile. Blown up means destroyed by explosion. Destroyed by explosion. He was the only survivor. When do I get my arms back? He asked. The story was dropped. Well, Tony Blair wasn't holding him in his arms, nor the body of any other mutilated child, nor the body of any bloody corpse. Blood is dirty. It dirties your shirt and tie when you are making a sincere speech on television. I think all of you remembered well. Pinter speaks about the role of media in our last class. We already discussed it in detail. Then he again speaks about media. Then he says, there was a photograph published on the front page of British newspapers. Tony Blair kissing the cheek of a little Iraqi boy with the caption, "A grateful child." So media is ready to give the maximum popularity, maximum exposure for that. A few days later, there was another story in the with a photograph and inside page. It is the photograph of another 4-year-old boy with no arms. Even he is asking the question, when do I get my arms back? But you know, we can't see Tony Blair in that picture. And even we can't see the picture of the other boys without arms, or we can't see the picture of mutilated child. Mutilated here means inflicted a violent injury. Mutilated child, or we can't see the picture of the bloody corpse. So these two photographs, media is giving importance to the first photographer, the Tony Blair kissing the cheek of little Iraqi boy. But the next is, they just gave the photograph of a boy, a 4-year-old boy without arms. But they gave less important than the first one. They just gave this photograph in the 6th page, and they are not at all ready to speak about the mutilated child, mutilated child or any bloody corpse, because media is also not at all ready to share all these important issues through their newspaper. Okay, then we can move to the next paragraph. The 2000 American dead are an embarrassment. They are transported to their graves in the dark. Funerals are unobtrusive, out of harm's way. The mutilated rot in their beds, some of the rest of their lives. So the dead and the mutilated both rot in different kinds of graves. And even we can see that 2000 American dead. Actually, to speak about the 2000 American dead, it is an embarrassment for them. They felt it is very shame to speak about the 2000 American dead. And even that is why they transported the corpse into the dark. They didn't give any funeral ceremony relating this corpse, because they felt it is very shame. The mutilated rot in their beds some of the rest of their lives. So without getting the funeral ceremony, the dead body started to decay. So the dead and the mutilated both rot in different kinds of graves. So that means US government, they felt it is shame to speak about the number of death. They are not at all giving any importance to such corpse, such dead bodies. They felt it is shame to speak about the number of these deaths. That is why without any funerals, they are dragging their bodies into the graves. The United States now occupies 702 military installations throughout the world in 132 countries, with the honorable exception of Sweden, of course. So we can see that they are concentrating more in military installations around the world. We don't quite know how they got there, but they are there all right. The United States possesses 8,000 active and operational nuclear warheads. They already possess more than 8,000 active and operational nuclear warheads. 2,000 are on higher trigger alert. Higher trigger alert means a trigger of firearm set for release at the slightest pressure. So they already possessed very powerful weapons. So they already possess the higher trigger alert, ready to be launched with 15 minutes warning. So can you imagine the power of that trigger alert? It is developing new systems of nuclear force known as bunker busters. Bunker busters, actually it is 5,000 pound laser bomb used to penetrate hardened underground facilities. So they are giving more importance to their military force and to possess such dangerous weapons. Because we already noticed that Harold Pinter already revealed that they want to control the economic power all over the world. That is why they are possessing all these dangerous weapons, including the trigger alert and bunker busters. The British, ever cooperative, are intending to replace their own nuclear missiles Trident. Who, I wonder, are they aiming at? Osama bin Laden, you, me, Joe Dox. Actually, we can't predict next to whom they are focusing. We can't predict it. It may be me or you, or it may be definitely bin Laden or Joe Dox. We already talked about in detail relating bin Laden. We already understood how he was killed. Then Joe Dox. It is very important. It already given here in your textbook, page number 62. Joe Dox, a fictional character, is the protagonist of series of 63 black and white live action comedy released between 1942 and 1956. The character's name comes from a popular American slang term for the average man. So, I told you it's a fictional character. It is very important you should study who is Joe Dox, because once university asked this question, who is Joe Dox? Okay, so I repeat, he is a fictional character, is the protagonist of a series of 63 black and white live action comedy released between 1942 and 1956. You can search in YouTube, definitely you will get the series. The character's name comes from a popular American slang term of the average man. So here Harold Pinter speaks about the atrocities of US government. We will not get the idea to whom they are focusing. Who is the next victim of US government? China. It may be China, Paris, who knows? We don't have any idea about their victims. What we do know is that this infantile insanity, the possession and threatened use of nuclear weapons. Actually, he reveals that they are infantile insanity. Actually, they are mad. Infantile means childish. Insanity means madness. In the case of the possession and threatened use of nuclear weapons, they are more conscious about the possession and threatened use of nuclear weapons. That is why they are trying to control the economic power. They want to possess all the dangerous weapons. We must remind ourselves that the United States is on a permanent military footing and shows no sign of relaxing in it. So, Harold Pinter reminds us, definitely you should have a clear idea about the atrocities of US government. They want to make a permanent military footing. Footing here means stable position. They are focusing on the military footing. They do not want to get the relaxation from this, because they want to control all over the world by their power, using their power. So they are focusing on the permanent military footing. Many thousands, if not millions, of people in the United States itself are demonstrably sickened, shamed, and angered by their government's actions. But as things stand, they are not coherent political force yet. Actually, the people who live in America, they are not at all happy because of these atrocities. Thousands and even millions of people in US, they felt sickened, shamed and angered because of US government's atrocities. But the problem, they don't have any idea about this coherent political force, the logic of the political force. But the anxiety, uncertainty and fear which you can see growing daily in the United States is unlikely to diminish. Diminish means less impressive. But it is increasing. This anxiety is increasing day by day. The inhabitants in America, they are shamed, angered and also sickened by the atrocities of government. Even they don't have any idea about the political force. But definitely this anxiety is increasing day by day. I know that President Bush has many extremely competent speech writers, but I would like to volunteer for the job myself. I propose the following short address which he can make on television to the nation. I see him grave, hair carefully combed, serious, winning, sincere, often beguiling, sometimes employing a wary smile, curiously attractive, a man's man. Beguiling means charming in deceptive way. Not it. Beguiling means charming in a deceptive way. Charming in a deceptive way. So he speaks about the President Bush. He says definitely Bush has many extremely competent speech writers to speak about their own version. But here he says, as an artist, as a citizen, he takes the responsibility himself. He already got the good platform to speak about the atrocities. Definitely through this speech, the entire world will listen him. And even all these things are recording, all these things are documented. So definitely people will get the chance to think about these atrocities of US government. At the same time, he can visualize the scene of Bush in the grave. Definitely, even in the grave, we can see that Bush become very serious, his hair carefully combed, he has the winning, sincere, often beguiling, sometimes employing a very means feeling caution about the possible danger. But at the same time, we can see the smile, curiously attractive, a man's man. God is good, God is great, God is good, my God is good. Bin Laden's God is bad, he is a bad God. Saddam's God was bad, except he didn't have one. He was a barbarian. We are not barbarians. We don't chop people's head off. We believe in freedom, so does God. I'm not a barbarian. I am the democratically elected leader of a freedom-loving democracy. We are a compassionate society. We give compassionate electrocution and compassionate lethal injection. We are a great nation. I am not a Levin dictator. He is. I am not a barbarian. He is. And he is. They all are. I possess moral authority. You see this fist. This is my moral authority. And don't you forget it. I think these are the most powerful words in his speech. He says, God is great, God is good. There is no difference between Bin Laden's God or my God or even Bush's God. No, there is no need to make such differences. He was a barbarian. Barbarian means uncivilized person. He speaks about the US government. They are barbarians, but definitely we are not at all barbarians, because we don't know to chop the people's head. We don't know to cut down people's head. We don't know how to kill the innocent people. We don't know. So we are not at all the barbarians, but they are, because they are killing innocent people. Thousands of innocent people they are killed. So they are barbarians. We don't know those method. We don't know such a low intensity method. So we are not at all barbarians. Then I am the democratically elected leader of freedom-loving democracy. So Harold Pindar says he is believing in democracy because he is elected leader of freedom-loving democracy. We are giving importance to freedom. We can love the people. We want to live in harmony. We are compassionate. We can feel sympathy. We give compassionate electrocution and compassionate lethal injection. Okay, lethal injection. What it is lethal injection? It is the practice of injecting one or more drugs into a person for the purpose of rapid death. That it is lethal injection. I repeat, practice of injection one or more drugs into a person for the purpose of rapid death. Then electrocution means death caused by electric shock. So he says we are not at all barbarians. We don't know to kill the innocent people. We don't know the method to chop down the heads of the people. But they are barbarians. They knew it well. They are doing it. More than that, we are the leaders of freedom-loving democracy. We can feel the sympathy towards the human beings. and we give compassionate electrocution and compassionate lethal injection because we are the part of great nation. At the same time, he reveals that I am not a dictator, but he is. They are following the dictatorship. Once again, he repeats, I am not at all a barbarian, but he is. And we are giving importance to moral authority. Then he shoved his fist. This is my moral authority. That means his conscience always thinks about the atrocities against others also. He is also thinking about himself. At the same time, he is ready to take the responsibility of others, the atrocities against others. So he says, I have the fist. I am ready to act against the atrocities. And don't you forget it. That means everyone has the responsibility to react against these atrocities because we are human beings. We are compassionate people. We are believing in democracy. So we should have the responsibility to save those innocent people. A writer's life is a highly vulnerable. Vulnerable means possibility of being attached physically or emotionally. So he reminds us a writer's life is highly vulnerable, almost naked activity. We don't have to weep about that. The writer must his choice and is stuck with it. But it is true to say that you are open to all the winds. Some of them I see indeed. You are out on your own, out on limb. You find no shelter, no protection unless you lie. In which case, of course, you have constructed your own protection and it could be argued become a politician. So, he is giving the direction to the writers. The writers have their own responsibility. Definitely, we don't start to weep. Instead of that, we should be ready to act against it. We can see the open windows, but sometimes those open windows, it is very cold, It is not very friendly for you. Even no one is ready to protect you, but you don't go back. It is your responsibility to speak about the truth through your writings. No one is ready to help you, but at the same time, you should be ready to take the responsibility as a writer. I believe that despite the enormous odds which exist, unflinching, unswerving, fierce, intellectual determination as citizens to define the real truth of our lives and our societies is a crucial obligation which develops upon us all. It is in fact mandatory. Mandatory means compulsory. I repeat, mandatory means compulsory. Unflinching, second line, unflinching, not showing fear. Unswerving, unswerving means not changing, very violent. So he says the enormous odds which exist. Unflinching, unswerving fierce, intellectual determination as citizens to define the real truth of our lives and our societies is crucial obligation which develops upon us all. So every citizen, you should have the responsibility to act against all the atrocities which happens around us. So We should be exist, unflinching, unswerving, fierce intellectual determination. Fierce intellectual determination as a citizen. And it is our obligation to define the real truth of our lives. Whatever it is happening, it may be the threat we should face. Whatever it is, you should be ready to speak about the truth as a citizen. It is your obligation to speak about the truth. It is in fact mandatory. That means it is compulsory. You should speak about the truth as a citizen. If such a determination is not embodied in our political vision, we have no hope of restoring what is so nearly lost to us, the dignity of man. Finally, he also gives a warning to the writers, citizens, and also the politicians. What it is? We should have the determination. It is not embodied in our political vision. Our future will not be fair. What we should be embodied? Embodied means included. We should include in our political vision. What will we include? A strong, very strong determination we will be included in our political vision. What it is the determination? We always tell the truth. Whatever happens, we should tell the truth. That is our determination. So the determination, this determination is not included in our political vision. Definitely we will lose a lot of things. We can't restore it. And we will lose the dignity of man. If you are not at all ready to speak about the truth, definitely we will miss the dignity of a person. We can't sell, we are human beings. So, once again I repeat this conclusion. In this speech, Pinter vehemently criticizes the US government's foreign policy from Second World War onwards till the contemporary period. He also points out how the US becomes a threat to every nation with the history of bloodshed and violence that it has committed in these years. He ends the speech by explaining the role of the writer in this political turmoil and how vulnerable an artist in these situations. He argues that as citizen, it is their responsibility to define the real truth of their society. With a great intellectual determination, such a responsibility is required to restore the dignity of man, which is being violated in these war crimes. Harold Pinter's speech is an explicit political statement against the war atrocities and military interventions carried out by the US. The speech is a call for justice for the innocent civilians caught up in these warfares. It also reminds the artist community about their responsibility as citizens in condemning the violence of the state. The question of the role of the artist becomes relevant as the speech is delivered to the community of artists and writers of the Nobel Prize ceremony. So the chapter is over. All of you please go through the textbook thoroughly. We will discuss the question answers through our online WhatsApp group. Thank you.